I would say potentially one of those maps where a lot of teams have been kind of flexing out. So if you are Giant Esports here, I'd expect, especially because you're a match point as well, if you're going to be flexing out anyway, if you're going to show some versatility, maybe pull something out of the bag, this is going to have to be the map to do it on.
Well, there's something out of the bag. Does appear to be Pixie on Sombra. And X69 will play a Sombra of his own, plus Jackie on the Doomfist. This is a composition we've seen a decent amount of on Hanamura.
And also showing just the versatility from Cyclone coupling as well. And just from Giant Esports now, considering maybe changing. I want to say the Moira pick here is going to give them some more solidity, some more solidarity, I should probably say. Some more counterplay against Jackie as well.
Speaking of, Jackie had a nice angle there. Giant dude just kind of barrel in though, nearly caught out Jackie, but he's going to be able to get healed up. Now he punches Tino straight back, getting healed up, but he's, that was very down to the wire for a second. Finally, they're able to finish off Yang Yang. This opens up the back line. A touch, Jackie gets stunned out and will get taken down. Sage and God low, but it's looking like he'll survive here. So unless X69 wants to commit an EMP, which might not be the safest of ideas here, especially with Eternal down now, Red Box as well. Yeah, Cyclone, they're going to lose this point. The old school GOATs, the OG, original GOAT composition is going to pay off for Giant.
Greatest of all time there from Giant, and for Cyclone coupling now, saving the EMP from B is actually fairly decent. I do want to say Jackie, if he landed the rising uppercut onto Tinawat, that might have been the kill onto him, and that might have been the defense potentially secured for A, but for Giant Esports, able to just survive that one. Pichu then getting a kill as well. That's what now allows them to get onto B, but this EMP is going to be the game changer.
And it's going to be very tough for them to deal with. There it is, straight on up as they committed that coalescence. They're able to finish off Sage and God thanks to EMP, but it's actually all that Cyclone coupling got from that so far, and now Giant looking to reassess, reaggress the fight. There's some Meteor Strike available. Oh, Jackie finds Rocket before he was able to get behind his shield. Now Meteor Strike out, looking for something on the back line. Has to go for XUXZ, but doesn't mind too much, does finish him off, even though Goddess trades one back on Eternal. Sage and God this whole time has got back in the mech, but now he's the solo tank, and Giant have lost this fight.
And this is not the cleanest EMP fight win either. Note that Giant Esports managed to get the coalescence off before EMP was able to finish, and at the same time, Giant Esports didn't lose specifically because of the EMP. The fight went on for a little bit longer, so Cyclone coupling, because it wasn't clean, they're not going to get a huge string of ults out. One important kill that Jackie did find wasn't SQXZ, because he had the Graviton Surge. Taking down the Zarya means that removes the biggest piece from the board for Giant Esports on their push.
Pichu is going to swap back onto the Zenyatta. I do like the Zenyatta against the tanks, but I kind of prefer the Moira against the Doomfist just because of the extra slipperiness and danger getting too close to a Moira.
Yeah, also against EMPs and whatnot as well, which is slowly coming back up. I say slowly, but X69 about to get that one.
Slow for X69.
Oh, no, very slow because he's down.
It's going to be a little bit slower, and that's a great shot by Rocket because it allows them to get into this fight now. But Jackie is not going to let them take it for free.
Jackie's going to live.
Back, yeah, and he does indeed live. Gets back up, has a Meteor Strike. They've been able to reset for X69, who won't even need to use this EMP by the looks of things. Tinawat does find Zenyatta in there, but with SQXZ down, Giant, they're just a few too many members short here, and they're not going to be able to stay in this fight any longer.
And Goddess changed onto the Tracer as well, notably just to try and get back to the point on time. Actually gets 2 kills in the middle of this engagement. If they don't win this fight, which they're not likely to do so, he's going to be forced up to change back onto the Ghost, back onto Brigida. Meanwhile, Cyclone coupling sitting on soon to be 4 ultimates once Red Fox gets the nano boost as well. And this is just a very difficult scenario for Giant Esports to play into time and time again. They're not able to get any distance still, not even that first tech onto B either. And they're not forcing ults out of Cyclone coupling. They just won that one without using anything.
Giant are now massively on the back foot in terms of ultimates. There's no two ways about it. Oh, that was absolutely gross. Sage and God will go down here. Might even be a gong ringing out with how quickly this is just... They're going to stall it out.
Stagger here.
So it won't be a gong, but it'll be one better. It'll be extra time off the clock. And speaking of, under 4 minutes remaining for Giant, they've made absolutely no headway.
And this is from Giant Esports getting a very quick cap onto A as well. It only took them about, I'd say, yeah, just the 1 attempt actually. So all the bonus time that they got for themselves has kind of elapsed right now. You're at the sort of stage where this is the expected time. A team finishes capping A within the 4 minutes and now gets onto B. You're under 4 minutes now. You're still playing against so many ults.
And there's the collapse as they dive on in. They do actually make it to the point, but Pichu did have to commit a Transcendence for that to happen. Meteor Strike, he knows he can't commit into that. Too many members, so they've kind of weathered the storm of the first couple of ultimates.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to be playing into Goddess's Shield Bash directly into an Earth Shatter either. Getting some of the DPSs down is a key winning condition for Giant Esports, but right now, playing into the trance.
There we go, they've lasted that one out as well, but they still lose Sage and Godsmack. That's a little unfortunate. Oh, the Earth Shatter right as the EMP came across the whole team, and the collapsing damage from Cyclone means no one from Giant could follow up on that. They'd survived so much, but they couldn't connect that well in time, and the kills still came through from Cyclone.
All right, so good news now for Giant is because they have now got themselves a chance to reset, come back in for another fight. The ultimates are gone from Cyclone Coupling. We're in a sort of stage where they're on 4 or 5, maybe even nearly 6 ultimates on the CYC side. For Giant now, Tito even going to go onto the Winston. They have Rocket with the sound barrier. Maybe SQXC can charge this Graviton Surge up if the fight goes long enough, but that's really what they're waiting on. This is their best opportunity.
Pichu will be quite vulnerable to Jackie if he gets that Meteor Strike up, which he most likely will. Early sound barrier gets committed from Rocket. Sage and God taking some pain. They zone out Red Fox, nice catch from Jackie. Sage and God is to commit a self-destruct, but it's not in a place that's going to catch anyone. It only resets the mech, but doesn't matter. Meanwhile, on the point, Goddess has found out Yang Yang. Tita getting topped off here, looks to collapse on X69, forced to translocate back. GCGG pops himself a Transcendence. And Nano Boost has not got too much mileage either. Meteor Strike from Jackie on top of Pichu. Oh, shield in the last second, stunned up. Jackie's in trouble. No, gets a shield, able to finish off Pichu. And with that, again, it looks like Giant have started to hit that same brick wall. This time they got a lot more progress forward, but didn't quite get that second third.
And now I'm not too sure if they're going to ever get another opportunity like that in this current attack phase. 1 minute 30 remaining, X69 back onto an EMP. And that's going to be the winning ultimate here. Once the EMP comes through, assuming it's going to be a really good usage, you're going to see a lot of ult charge for the rest of Cyclone Coupling. They're going to win a fight, not use any other ultimates, go into the final fight of the game with a huge ultimate advantage. And for Giant Esports, there's 2 fights left for them, 2 more additional attempts, and this one is probably not going to be it.
Very, very tight spot for Giant, unless they get a huge grab, but it's going to be a hard ask. And there's the EMP, instant commit, instant connect. 1 for 1 though, but Yang Yang fighting S.
No grab now.
Not going to be able to take this one, and they need to reset quickly. They do have one last chance.
It actually wasn't a bad fight for them initially. They just had to keep SQXC alive. They traded out. They got X69 down. There's a world where if SQXC survives, he grabs out, Giant can still win in that push. Now we are into potential overtime territory. 1 tick is already there. You'd like to see 2 ticks for Giant, even if they don't finish the entire map, but it's going to be a big ask. It's
just 1 good fight, that's all it's going to take. GCGG has the Transcendence to counter out SQXC's grab. That's a lot of letters. X69 just looking for something on the backside. Doesn't have the EMP, just maybe wanted to farm it up.
Rocket.
Oh no, Jackie's already found 1. There's going to be the grab, but it's not great. It's not got the members, and Pichu's dead already. Now Giant have even less than what they had before. Tita as well on the complete wrong side of this fight. 3 versus 6. It does not get any more dire than that, except for maybe 2 versus 6, which is what it's going to be once Goddess goes down. Now the last man standing is SQXC. He's going to fall. Overtime will disappear as soon as they finish off. I believe it is Rocket. Just barreling into the point of the last minute because they were the first to die. And that's going to be the last. Pichu's just here.
Just feeling
transcending on the point right now. That's going to be the last gasp for it there.
I do want to say, this is a very similar kind of defense to what we saw from Spanik on the Doomfist and the rest of GE Pantheon just a little bit earlier. Maybe not quite as dominant as Spanik on the Doomfist specifically, but Jackie really showed himself there. He was able to just kind of show his range of the Doomfist plays. I want to say not quite as aggressive or maybe even as confident as Spanik, but it was enough so that for Giant Esports, he was just this massive barrier that they could not get past. Jackie was constantly able to dislodge people. One of the strengths of the Doomfist on that push is if you are a team, whether that's a GOATS team or any other type of team, and you're trying to make some movements around that second point, trying to set up anywhere, trying to just rotate, the Doomfist, even if he's not directly getting kills, if he's just kind of forcing you to go in positions and displacing you and punching you off the ledges and punching you off the point and stuff like that, it really just pushed this GOATS comp into disarray because people are not next to each other, people are not where they want to be, and that makes things so much more difficult for Giant.
Just seeing how that one played out.
It's actually a failed jump by Yang Yang, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, the grab missing completely was kind of the death knell there if losing the 2 supports wasn't already enough of one. Now Giant on the defense are going to have to really dig deep.
It's actually Yang missing that jump means he didn't go into the grab, so that was actually a pretty
blessing in disguise.
Good, good result from that, I would say. So Cyclone coupling now, I'd say the win is within their grasp.
It's like when you don't quite get through the green light in time, but then the person in front of you gets hit by a truck. So it's fine. It's so, you know, that would have been me if I'd gone through.
That's very Final Destination of you. But,
well, that's how Yang
kills just know that Reaper's still coming, because Jackie's playing it right now.
Oh boy. This is going to be an interesting one. Try and deal with what Giant is running. And Giant as well are actually going to move on to a Doomfist themselves, rather.
So this is kind of strange, because it's Goats-ish, but it's just not quite tanky enough. I'll be interested to see if Jackie can do a lot here. They do have a player advantage, so that's good.
Yeah, they stunned up SQXZ. The hack onto Jackie doesn't really stop the Reaper. That's actually one of the strengths of him. The damage output is still just good enough as they kind of just drill these tanks down. Giant felt very paper-like on that defense.
I think a lot of that just came down to the initial pickup. They got that one player advantage, just snowballed their way through. And it's not the EMP or the hack that they're really worried about. If you get EMP'd as a team, it doesn't matter that the Reaper can still do reasonably well there. The rest of your team just gets farmed. So it's still just a very interesting composition. Because they are snowballing right now, we're nearly at a Death Blossom, nearly at a Coalescence. Cyclone are just going to continue pushing through.
Look, as we like to say, if it's stupid and it works, then it ain't stupid. And you got to say, at least for point A, it worked. Now the question is, will it continue to work? They've already drilled down T to what? That's Jackie willing to go aggressive. SQXZ goes diving straight in. The stun up on Saiyajin God means his mech is not long for this world. And even though SQXZ took a bit longer to die in this fight, still just far too late. The cap is already coming through. I don't know if anyone can even get onto contest, but the Death Blossom is here just waiting, hanging on. It's going to be a Transcendence. Jackie's just waiting for it to run out. Now he's going to commit the Death Blossom. Does find him.
That was disappointing.
Yeah, not ideal, but oh well. X69 getting picked though. This is actually Giant stabilizing. Maybe banked a bit too much on the Death Blossom getting those kills and didn't have that same focus fire.
You almost wish he didn't use that because he was doing so well beforehand, and there's so many more ults on the Cyclone coupling side. They got so close to capping out the map. I was so sure that was going to be the winning push. Earth Shadow ready to go. Sound Barrier as well as the Graviton Surge, just everything they need. Jackie even staying on the Reaper here. That's going to be an interesting decision, I guess. Maybe it works because here comes the EMP. This will be Jackie's time to shine if there is one.
Exactly. Just the ability to kind of stay in the fight. He does lose access to the Raid 4. That little bit of safety. Early rally out from X69.
Still just a little bit of posturing here. Cyclone waiting for the long rotations. Note that they have ults as well. If they can land some good ults, the EMP won't matter.
Red Fox is down early in the fight though. Self-destruct! Saiyajin God finds the rest. It's over.
That's all for done and dusted. Giant Esports, EMP into self-destruct. Great combo. You might be Jackie and the Reaper. No, by the way, he died first, so that was super anticlimactic. I would suggest changing here potentially, but
X69
are they going to go on to maybe more of a dive? X69 looks like he wants to commit to a Tracer here. Technically, they have the time to play with just under 5 minutes. But how creative do you want to get? Because you're not really working towards a convincing win condition if you do want to experiment. And that looks like that's what Cyclone coupling want to do right now.
It's the thing, you kind of feel, you know, don't get fancy, just
win.
Yeah, just play it out. Don't get fancy, just get dancing. I know, that doesn't work with our accent. We say dance like normal people. But that's going to be a sound barrier from Red Fox to cue it out. That's a nice dive to find Rocket. X69 already kind of making waves. Forces out a Transcendence from Pichu to get onto the point. SQXZ still taking the hurt though. Jackie low, finally going to get dropped down. But the wraparound here, SQXZ getting healed up thanks to that Orb of Discord. It's just a little bit tricky for X69 to finish these kills off.
This one's not going to be the fight for them. Despite getting the Pulse Bomb available now, everyone else kind of just falling by the wayside there. SQXZ finds X69 a little bit annoying on the side there as the Tracer versus Doomfist battle concludes. But he just picks up the other members. I mean, for Cyclone coupling, losing Jackie reasonably early there definitely hurts that comp. And this is a little strange now. It's kind of like classic dive, but it's classic dive with a Brigida. It's not like completely unheard of, but just doesn't quite synergize the way you want. This Pulse Bomb could be a winner though, if it lands well.
Feels like an untasty version of Rocky Road.
Something.
Pulse Bomb finds Rocket, now X69 able to find the other support, so off to a decent start. Even though they lost one of their own, now they finish off the Doomfist. This is a good position now for Cyclone, even with the self-destruct and EMP both a factor. They should be able to stay in this fight. Red Fox will be able to come back in before too long. They finish off T-Dawat. Rocket and Pichu back in the fight. Not Rocket anymore, though. Sajin God as well out of the mech. Gets closed off on SQS's Meteor Strike, but I don't know that he's going to be able to commit it, and that's the last hurrah. While he was up in the air chanting that one, Cyclone coupling going to take out Hanamura. That secures the series for them.
And I think that's a statement made by X69 as well. He was actually doing very, very well into the Tracer. Like I said, the first fight when he just went into the Tracer, thumped up the Pulse Bomb straight away, took down Rocket straight away, pressured Pichu out to immediately transcend it. This time around in that final engagement, we won't talk about the middle parts that weren't as good, but in the final engagement there, again, gets Rocket with the Pulse Bomb, then snipes out Pichu. He's just able to get those supports down so effectively. And I think part of the thing is here, for teams like Giant Esports, they're not expecting the Tracer to come out. They're not prepared against the Tracer. And so I think for them, there needs to be a mental shift where they need to adjust mentally to think, okay, there is a Tracer on the map now. How do we play our supports against that? Because the supports right now are in a more comfortable sort of meta where they don't have to think about getting flanked and all that. So suddenly you are getting flanked, and they're not prepared for it. So that definitely caught Giant Esports out a little bit. And X69 taking advantage of that, winning with the Tracer. They only had a very tiny amount to cap. They were at 33%, had to get to 50%. So if they just get any small advantages and just sit on the point for a number of seconds, they actually just finish the map, and they do. And
they had plenty of time to do it as well. And you're quite right about that. I mean, the fact of the matter is, with the Brigida in the mix, it is quite dangerous to play a Tracer, but at the moment that's off the table. So. Yeah, exactly. The fact that X69 actually identified that opportunity, and I think you're quite right, it just caught Giant by surprise. But that's not the only factor as well. We do have to consider their inability to get enough of an advantage on the offense to finish out a cap. They only got a little bit of progress in what was still not a particularly successful fight. And on the other side of that, Cyclone coupling, I mean, if Giants' point A attack looked good, Cyclone couplings look absolutely phenomenal. It was almost uncontested and just so lightning quick. You saw that kind of carry on through to point B. Not in that it was really fast, but they just always seemed in control, always seemed in the driver's seat. It was always Giant reacting.
And now it seems like for the first time in 8 series of the season so far, we may be seeing our first 4-0. Certainly Cyclone coupling are on track to make that happen now. Giant Esports need to make the, I was saying make the comeback happen before. Now they've officially lost the series and they're just playing for map score.
Yeah.
They still want to get that escort win, but that's not where they were really showing their strength last time. Assault probably was their best game mode last week, and now that they've been kind of dismantled by Cyclone coupling, they like it just still never really felt like it was their map. You kind of said this best, where Cyclone coupling were ahead in all regards, basically had control of the game across all 3 maps, and for all 3 maps in a row, I think you need to have seen a little bit more evidence of Giant Esports having that win within their sights, you know, the light at the end of the tunnel, because currently it's just all looking dark.
And again, I've got to revisit this, what I said at the start of the series. The thing I wanted to see out of Cyclone was them setting up for those wins and then being able to follow through. We wanted to see that, and this has been that. They've
now they're going to be the first team to 4-0.
Yeah, exactly. They set themselves up well just on the micro and macro scale, set themselves up nicely for fights, always identified win conditions, and executed on it very nicely. The fact that they were in the driver's seat tells that story in itself, right? Like, that's why they always seemed to be dictating the pace. That's why it always seemed like it was Giants rather having to react to whatever Cyclone were doing, because Cyclone were the ones doing things. They were like, this is how we're going to play, this is what we're going to do, and they're being proactive. It's what they lacked in week 1. It's here in week 2, and now I've got to say there's a good future ahead of this team.
And I also think now for Cyclone coupling, they look like the team, just based on memory here, that has now played the widest variety in terms of picks. I think they might not have shown much Genji or Widow or anything like that.
I don't know if they played a bunker comp.
Yeah, on Hollywood. Did they played where they had the failed Junkrat Riptide and all that? So they did play the bunker comp there as well. So among all of that, and we're also going to go to Dorado, by the way. That is going to be map number 4 coming up very, very shortly. This is now a team I'm very excited about because they're showing a lot of versatility. First team to seriously bring out Tracer and also win with it. This is not just like I'm swapping onto another hero. kind of pick here. It's like, no, I'm seriously going to play this, and we're going to win with this hero pick, and they do so. That actually says to me, if this now moves into a bit of a dive meta, if we change patches after playoffs and all that kind of business, if Tracer's back into meta, or if X or Y changes in the meta and teams need to shift, I'm actually feeling a lot more confident about Cyclone Coupling's ability to make that shift.
And I mean, even when you consider the fact, even when you just consider the fact that as it stands, it feels like Giant can only play GOATs right now. I mean, we're not actually in a GOATs-only meta already. We're in a meta where there is a variety of things that one could play. And the fact that Giant are only able to play GOATs is in and of itself a problem. That's to say nothing of, like you said, future situations where maybe teams need to adapt. Like, need we remind you all, when we do reach playoffs, Ashe will be enabled. I do expect teams to be running compositions with Ashe included. GOATs will not be one of those compositions, undoubtedly. And if you're in those playoffs, I mean, you've got to be...
I don't want to jump into that bag. My personal thoughts on that is I think GOATs are still going to... I don't see any reason...
I don't think we'll see no GOATs, but you can't only play GOATs, which is what Giant only do.
I think... let's not get into that Kittlefish just yet, because it'll be a long... If we get into that Kittle GOATs, it'll be a long discussion. I have some thoughts on that. I do think GOATs will still be the predominant meta. But that aside, what I'm trying to get to here is, for Giant Esports, I do agree that I'd like to see a little bit more variation here, because what it seems like is you're okay... You're not wrong. You're okay to play only GOATs because it is like the A tier, the S tier meta right now. But if you don't play other things, there's no surprise there for your opponents. It's not like, oh, we didn't expect the Tracer. Oh, there's a Doomfist now. We didn't see that before. It's like, well, we're only really expecting this. And I will give some credit over to Giant by saying, look, SQXC did play a little bit of Doomfist. There was a little bit of Sombra there. It's not like GOATs 24/7 for them, but the GOATs shell never really disappears for them.
Hold GOATs in the shell. I know I said earlier that we haven't seen much Dorado, so it's kind of nice to go back to it.
Yeah. But I do think, I do want to just be fair to Giant, because I think it's a little unfair if we say they only play GOATs, because they literally just lost against a Tracer while playing Sombra Doomfist, so we'll give that one to them.
Yeah, right. Credit where it's due.
That looks like a soft toy. That's all I got to say about that.
It looks like a very solid
But what we are also seeing is, I said we didn't see any Widows out of Cyclone Coupling yet. Now they're going to play X69 onto that. Versus Giant Esports playing the original Ryan GOATs.
That is the old OG GOATs. Same thing that actually pulled out on point A Hanamura, and it did work.
And by the way, Cyclone Coupling need to address the card right now, because they're playing Bunker. It's very difficult for them to actually meet this card and stop it. So it's up to them to kind of do something about that. While Jeki, by the way, nearly onto Rocket Barrage.
Nice halt, but they're not really able to find an angle. Oh, there's a Rocket Barrage in and behind Pichu. They find Sage and God as well, just with the sheer damage output. T1 only gets one back before dropping to the grave. X69 even finds a headshot in among all that chaos. Nicely held by Cyclone.
Saw how well Kefru was doing earlier. He said he wanted a piece of that. Right now for Cyclone Coupling, you see the angles there as well. The two DPSs. Farah Widow is actually one of those comps now that we're starting to see. And what you can do with this is Widow maintains one angle and Farah does the opposite angle. So if you're playing this GOATs as Giant Esports, you can't deal with X69, you also can't deal with Jeki.
Coalescence, though, out of Pichu is a big swing point for this team. They do find one with it. The self-destruct from Eternal goes wide. X69, though, he's still just kind of popping off, fragging out here. Jeki finds one meanwhile, while X69 was having to pull back. And just with that, Jeki staying in the fight. They're able to finish off Pichu, now getting the damage on the tanks. And they've got a Rocket Barrage that they need to commit for how good that start was for Giant. They've not actually got anywhere with this payload.
And by the way, you see Sage and God actually chasing X69 out. He can't get the kill there. It's very unlikely that he solo kills the Widowmaker. All X69 has to do is hook shot out of there, and then Sage and God cannot follow up. Here comes that Rocket Barrage.
Very quick. Caught out Goddess moving in front of T2Wat's shield and punished him quick. Sage and God as well was not anticipating the extra damage thanks to the nano boost. They want to stagger this out if they can. They actually tried to stop T2 from getting back into base. Now this is an overextension, though. Not accounting for SQXC's Graviton Surge has cost Cyclone a little bit. Jacky's still going to find at least 1 kill, and he's quite close to a barrage. So if they can find a couple of kills, they could still stabilize.
And they need to buy time for these tanks to come back in as well. Note that Red Fox couldn't go for the actual resurrection. Losing GCGG is bad news, though.
Rocket Barrage available still, but Cyclone God can just move up to block it now. They don't have that extra synergy that they need. Red Fox pops a Valkyrie and Goddess again. A little bit caught out before Cyclone God can react. T2 commits an Earth Shatter. It does find Eternal. They do finish off the mech as well. Now find the man himself thanks to the Coalescence. X69 again pressured out on the side. Cyclone, they're still kind of willing to fight this one out, but losing GCGG, now X69. It's really just Jackie and Yang Yang in this fight. And they are still doing some work. Might finish off Rocket here, but they will have to give this one up eventually.
Jackie's just shooting into a lot of bodies right now, a lot of HP that he can't
finally
really burn
dies.
Through. And for Giant, well, he dies because he finally goes onto the card. I think he just needs a suicide there to respawn as something else. And for Giant Esports, great punish against Eternal and Yang Yang, who overstepped, got a little bit too aggressive. They know Cyclone coupling like to chase. You want to chase us into base, we'll grab you right there, collect both tanks. Massive tempo swing. Giant Esports come in 6 versus 4. Cyclone Esports then lose GCGG. They're just in all sorts of trouble.
Now X69 swooping up to the Hanzo here. Wants to be able to get that
he's still sniping
onto the payload. Exactly. It's same thing, just different flavor.
He just wants to pause again to get that ultimate up.
Can't play.
He just swapped onto a new hero. He's like, oh, I just need a little bit of time here, guys.
Come on, give me a minute. Back at this stupid joke, yay.
It's because we had 2 pauses on the same series, but, you know, alas.
Yeah. I mean, I don't mind.
I do also
call back to an earlier game.
There was something I wanted to add onto the Diva chasing Widow comment, and that was you also saw Cyclone God, as he was chasing X69 out, he was himself out of position. So while he takes X69 out of position, because he's also out of position, it's technically still a 5v5. And I think losing the Diva there is a pretty big loss considering
the Pharaoh.
Considering he is the only one that can affect the Pharaoh. He's actually the only one that can affect the Widowmaker as well. So he's got a really tough call to make. If he runs after one, the other one doesn't do. The other one's free to shoot.
It's unfortunate, and the thing is, there is no right answer there except for like have someone else get a kill on one or something like that.
Maybe the right answer could also be fly to the high ground, push X69 off the high ground as he hook shots away. Don't then try and jump over the wall and chase after anything. Then go back to your team straight away and try and get that 6v5 going.
Or cry and concede. That is an option. Just it's available to a team.
Prep, coin, concede.
Prep, coin, concede. A classic.
Classic Blizzard Entertainment video games.
I'm
being referenced here.
Okay, I just saw the goat on the return feed.
Oh,
that terrified me for a second. I was like, what's that? I nearly just cracked myself. Oh my God. Woo! Welcome to Contenders Pacific, everyone.
A recent opponent would like to be your friend.
A recent goat would like to be your friend. Hey, look at this kid. That's what you call a young goat. I'll be here all week. And all season beyond that. You get rid of me. Sorry.
Believe me, I've tried.
And, well, I mean, that's it. We're officially out of things to talk about in the pause. So,
well, to be honest, we can go into some details about.
We might as well.
Where the sort of the fight's going to go from here, because there has been some reasonable slowdown. Look, it has been a cap onto A, but because it was a reasonable slowdown by Cyclone coupling, and they're spawning onto the Hanzo, which X69 is actually already on about 40-ish%. It's a fresh hero, so when we get back, he'll be on 100. But because he's already on about 40 right here, I'm not too sure if the Dragon Strike is going to be super high value, but certainly it's a decent
alternative. Just for saying that, he's going to get like a 5K off it.
Maybe if Giant Esports just stand there and just take it and be like, all right, we're done.
Fair enough. Like, you
just sit there and emote and just like, you put in so much effort. I just feel like you should be rewarded.
truly an equal opportunity match.
what will happen is Pixie from the last match will come in and give them a free Transcendence, which will then not have a Transcendence for the actual Dragon.
He's going to steal Pichu's Transcendence and use it.
At the worst time, and then lose.
Worst possible moment. And then someone's going to miss a grab. There's not even any Zaryas in this game.
Yeah, is there actually a Zarya?
There can't be a grab available, but you can't miss your grab.
Is there going to be
a grab available?
Is there going to be a grab dragon? Because I actually didn't quite catch.
There is no grab unless they are about to make a change. But then
that's right, because it's Diva Winston, so there's no Zarya, so there can't be a grab combo.
So it looked very sad for a second.
Well, I mean, I'm actually quite happy we're out of grab dragon meta. That was
We've seen a lot of grab self-destruct though. A lot of it. And I mean, it's quite effective, even if it's just getting a couple of kills, if you're not always able to close out the kills in the grab, which is a real possibility in GOATs. I like that we're seeing a lot more of that, but it is quite expensive.
I'll say that as Goddess unfortunately disconnected, which is going to affect the push somewhat because you're now waiting for that respawn to come through. Ultimate has been reset as well. X69, he's on like 70% now, so he was secretly charging his ultimate during the pause.
The res onto GG, and then just these extra kills. This is a very quick stabilization from Cyclone.
That's really incredible.
Now
we're into the sort of stage where there's some big AoE ults here, both from the Hanzo and the Pharah here, Jackie and X69. There's a lot of damage to sort of get around if you're Giant Esports. I would expect for Rocket right now, the speed boost has to be on point because there's no Transcendence, there's no sound barrier to save the damage.
This is nearly all 6 ultimates. So anyway, we could see a grab dragon combo. It just has to be SQXZ's grab. Ooh, Jackie gets sniped out by Pichu, and the dragon went wide. That's
both ultimates
big whiff.
Both ultimates ended as poorly as could possibly end.
Tell that to Pixie.
Yeah, well.
Stop bragging on the guy. Red Fox getting picked out of the sky as well, but the grab goes to nowhere. That's a little unfortunate. But at any rate, Giant have actually still taken this fight pretty handily, isolating Eternal there, so they get the payload moving. And when you consider how many ultimate Cyclone coupling had, and they haven't had a good opportunity to use most of them.
This is now the opportunity where Giant Esports could have cleaned up a couple more members, maybe if the sleep didn't come in, but Cyclone coupling now get to regroup, still have 4 ultimates, actually still have advantage here, nearly onto the next dragon. Man, this guy charges fast.
6-9 go! That is unbelievable. GCGG does get picked though, and the sound barrier gives them enough time to pick out these other members, so it actually doesn't matter if X69 has an ultimate. Again, won't get a chance to use it. Valkyrie getting popped there as well, so actually Giant are getting a lot out of this. They're forcing a lot of ultimates out of Cyclone, or at least Cyclone are willingly committing a lot of ultimates in Giant and then still taking the fights. But this looks like where Cyclone will draw their line in the sand. The Dragon Strike split the members up. They've isolated Sage and God. Will pick him up. Now want to try to clean up the payload itself.
It was a primal by Yang Yang as well, who went super low, didn't actually go down there. Giant Esports, Transcendence being...
And now it's just going to be X69 headshot onto Rocket, nicely handled. Another grab out from SQXZ, 2 in a row that have caught absolutely nobody.
Look at this
really
charge.
Unfortunate. Res onto Jackie, who goes immediately back into the skies with nobody able to stop him. It's going to be another dragon, also soon to be another Rocket Barrage Earth Shatter. Oh, they do catch them thanks to the self-destruct from Sage and God, which may have just saved the fight for Giant as we approach the overtime. Cyclone is still going to keep charging on to this point, try and contest it out. They want to heal up Jackie, want to get this Rocket Barrage, but losing Yang Yang finds 2. Oh, they're not out of this just yet. The Dragon Strike rakes across. It's not going to get any kills though. Giant, they haven't capped yet, but I feel like they will. There we go.
Super anticlimactic Dragon, just sort of slowly sidestep that one, doesn't do very much. And for Giant Esports, amazing triple kill coming out of Sage and God as well. For Cyclone coupling, kind of just having to bite the bullet here, going back onto GOATs. They're saying, oh, we tried the Hanzo, we tried the Pharah. It was kind of successful, pushed it into the overtime, but now it's time to win.
Man, if he misses another grab, he's going to have to change his name to SQXD. It's not been hot so far, and he did have to make a bit of a hot swap as well over to the Soldier, so he's fully reset that charge. But the fight at hand is Red Fox being the first casualty. Sage and God nearly actually back at that mech now as Yang Yang bit too deep on that. Jackie gets picked. Giant have got a ton of momentum here. They're keeping these picks going. Eternal just has to get on the payload to stall it out so that they can maybe reset and get a push into overtime to defend.
And they were just kind of spawn camping in there. Cyclone coupling stuck underneath. Yang Yang had a charge just to open up space for the rest of the team. Himself goes down, and then the rest of Cyclone coupling to soon follow.
Earth Shatter does get a good number, but the counter shatter from T-Watt to stop up the nano boost, and Yang Yang charging onto T-Watt, though he's going to take a chunk of hurt from that. He's alive for the time being. Self-destruct board.
Watch the grabs.
Do have to back up. Speaking of grabs, look at that. X69 just made a swap, and he's already leading on charge on SQXZ. Now ready to commit this one. Throws it on down. Good connection. They need to get the kills, though. Need to get the follow-up. They find SQXZ, who could not and did not counter grab. Self-destruct finds X69. Goddess even finds one. T-Watt's still in this. They might not be done. Sergeant God finds one. Red Fox, it's only Yang Yang. Despite all that, despite the great connections, Giant still pushed it through, man. Goddess, when he needed it, he dug deep and found it.
And that is the second win from Giant Esports that may propel them to a math win yet. 1 minute 30 they had for pushing into C. They went into overtime for B, and on a snowball play, catching people as they were coming out of spawn, that underground section that you can see onto your left there, members, 4 of them from CYC just caught up Yang Yang, sacrificing his own life just to attempt to get out of there. And from that point onwards, you see fast ultimate charges. Maybe the quickest grab we've seen out of SQXZ. Wasn't as quick as X69 still, who got it first, but they survived the counter grab. Well, they survived the grab from X69 first, used their own, secure a few more kills, finish that cap, and now in position to really contest for the map.
And when you consider how long it took them to cap A and then B, that is, I mean, to have such a high momentum push throughout C that was only briefly stopped up while they were just kind of riding out a few defensive ultimates out of Cyclone. I mean, that was fantastic from Giant. Where's that penal series?
And it pains me to say this, but I think Cyclone Coupling were punished for experimenting there, or punished for playing quote-unquote off-meta, because part of me believes they would have done better with the 3-3 goats. Had they played the 3-3 goats in the final sections or just across B, they may have just completed the hold on to B, but for Cyclone Coupling, they wanted to prove maybe the Pharah will work here, maybe the Hanzo will work, and look, you got 3 really quick Dragon Strikes, but none of them really did anything.
Yeah.
Cyclone Coupling, it's just disappointing that they had to lose there, because that looked like it was going to be a hold.
There's just nothing you can combo that Dragon up with. Nice wraparound though on this defense. Quick catch on Jackie. Nope, the old double freight trade maneuver there from the Reinhardts. Yang Yang is the low one though, will get finished off, and Giant, this is a decent start just to stall out a little bit and charge up some ultimates.
I believe that sleep dart actually hit there. Giant Esports, this is now the kind of momentum that you need if you want to have a good defense here, because note that Cyclone Coupling burnt off a lot of time on their own A defense. So for Giant now, GCGG by the way swapping onto his Zen. For Giant now, just stalling the cart here, it's going to buy them heaps of time.
Giant on the charge. X69 though is still leading in terms of the Graviton Surge, so
look at that.
Something's remained the same, but Yang Yang does get picked. Losing Goddess isn't too bad here when you just consider that shield loss from Yang Yang, but Giant will need to back up now. They did lose T-Watt, and Yang Yang does spawn sooner, actually losing Rocket too slow on the backup. Now Cyclone have momentum.
And I do respect the charge out of Yang Yang, despite it being suicidal. What it does do is open up damage and open up the potential for kills, and all CYC need to do is get some kills in there. If they get a couple, the respawn distance favors them so heavily that they get to eventually win. Now they push through, they get past the choke, they're about to finish A. Giant need to defend here.
He's gonna get aggressive. That's just good old Transcendence out of Pichu. Sitting around the cart, has long since run out. Need that.
Nice.
Oh, good Earth Shatter. Yang Yang and Jackie both falling very quickly there. T-Watt getting the connection that they needed. And they do actually have a lot of other ultimates they can rotate through. So Giant are still in a decent spot on this defense.
They are, and they get to push rather defend ahead of the cart as well, which means that Cyclone Coupling can't take advantage of that, get the passive healing and all that. But they do have ult supply with its grab onto both sides, but double defensive ultimates for CYC and only one for Giant Esports. That could be the deciding factor here.
X69 just kind of has to charge down the middle. Still connects the grab to not get eaten, and SQXZ goes down, so no counter grab, and T-Watt gets found out as well. And just every single time, that seems to be how things play out. SQXZ gets caught in a grab, is not able, or decides not to commit a counter grab. Cyclone do look like they will cap this one out with just a bit more time than what Giant did.
Yeah, both the options there, the grab and also the sound barrier for Giant Esports, was what they kind of needed to contend with. Both of those got used on the opposite side for CYC. Trying to take some early ground now. The difficulty will be Giant Esports can use the high ground while Cyclone Coupling are forced onto the low ground. So that should, or rather I'm wrong, Giant just want to fight.
Big Earth Shatter, though, immediately stops that one short. Goddess does at least survive, but with Titawat already down, the grab connects, but where's the damage going to come out from? You really do need the Reinhardt to get through how much health comes out here. Plus, there's the counter transcendence from GCGG anyway, so there's still going to be a quick cleanup. And Giant, they're so unwilling to commit these ultimates when they would be so huge, and then they're willing to commit them when they're already at a disadvantage.
And they don't fully commit either, because both Rocket and Pichu die with the support ultimates, which may have saved them. The reason I don't like Giant's attack there, I was talking about the high ground advantage, is they can respawn, take this high ground, posture for a better commit, and they can go on top of Cyclone coupling and immediately affect that middle section. But now they don't get to do that. Now the cart is about to get under this bridge.
You kind of end up seeding a bit of this high ground as well. Self-destruct just lobbed over the top, separates out the members of Giant, and Titawat is already down. Yang has free reign on this Earth Shatter, but they don't even need it. Sage and God gets picked. Smartly does not commit a self-destruct here, does not want to lose that ultimate. They do have a lot for the next fight, Giant, but Cyclone, man, they have yet to be stopped on B.
I'm just saying, Cyclone coupling, they absolutely don't need to use more here. For Giant Esports, as soon as you see the self-destruct come through, especially when Titawat goes down, time to use some support ultimates, time to burn some of those resources, otherwise you're not holding this B point.
They just seem so unwilling to commit. Now they commit. They commit 3, have only got one kill for it. That is a decent start. Counter Earth Shatter from Yang, though, completely absorbed by Titawat. So, Cyclone coupling moving backward, retreating here, may get run down if they're not careful. The charge forward does get counter-charged, and that means Yang will trade his life for the rest of his team being able to successfully retreat.
And it didn't look like the cleanest engage from Giant Esports, but with Yang getting booped out of the way, he was going for the Earth Shatter. The worst thing to happen to a Reinhardt, channeling the Shatter, then flying up into the air. And all Titawat has to do is hold his shield out. Now Giant Esports is suddenly in a position where they can burn some more time off, they can still hold on to B, but CYC just still have so many ults.
Also still actually moving the cart here. There's the self-destruct thrown into the grab, and it only gets Titawat, but that's plenty enough here. That's going to be the Transcendence from Pichu. SQXE needs to get a grab off here. He is low. He's not willing to commit it. Could not find an angle. How many times are we going to see that? While meanwhile, X69 is running around at 100 charge, just melting the members of Giant. And already recovering 40% of his ultimate.
And the big problem here now is, first of all, respawning members. SQXE rather likely to go down, and he does. Still 2 minutes 30 remaining for Cyclone coupling. That's 1 minute extra than what Giant had on this C approach, which means now pushing through, CYC are very likely to finish this time back, or rather finish this push and have something for the time back. Giant Esports have to rely on the grab. They have to combo up with maybe the self-destruct from Cyclone God when he gets it. That's really how they hold.
It's got to be something here. Again, that commitment, they've got to be able to commit the grab at the right time and actually follow up on it. There's the Earth Shatter to come out from Yang. SQXE on his back, does get back up. They're fighting very far forward here, which actually means no one's on the payload for Cyclone coupling. So they're just kind of wasting a bit of their own time, lost a couple of members, committed an ultimate, and just had to back up.
Managed to save themselves there. With the 1 minute gone, they've kind of nearly equalized at time, 1:45 and counting down for Cyclone coupling. And this time around, they actually win without using the grab. So this time you'll say that was a decent hold for them. They can still use it this time around, and better combo potential. What they can now do is use the grab and the self-destruct together. And if that's not enough, the Earth Shatter from Titawat should be able to clean up. If they can win this fight, they can maybe hold this.
And there's no defensive ultimates to counter it out. There's a double grab to come out. Self-destruct forward from Sage and God. Yang though blocks it with his shield. And now Cyclone have kind of weathered the worst of it. It's just the Earth Shatter from Titawat. That being said, Cyclone don't have anything their own. There's the Earth Shatter, though. Finds Jackie. Yang blocked for the rest, but this is still a numbers advantage for Giant, and they swoop. Looking for more kills. X69, not sure what happened there. I think he might have gone down to his own right click. I believe that is how that played out. And they lose Yang. So, good defense for Giant.
I'm pretty sure Titawat actually got his ult cancelled there, just based on voice lines. Jackie might have shield bashed him out. That being said, though, the rest of CYC still lose. The big problem here is Giant Esports by this time already started snowballing to the finish. And for CYC, they just barely have enough card movement, and now kind of faltering on the ult departments as well. SQXE coming up to the second grab, and X69 doesn't quite have one.
This time, though, there is GCGG's Transcendence to counter that grab from SQXE. Pichu does have Transcendence of his own as well. This is where Giant want to let it run to the overtime and then find the fight.
This could be it. This is probably going to be the final one, heading into the overtime right after this.
They need to be careful of Yang Yang's Earth Shatter there. That's going to be... Oh, Yang Yang. That was a weird commit right into Tinawatt's shield, who charges out, finds Jackie. SQXZ. It wasn't a big grab, but it might just be enough.
Might be a hold.
Here's the counter grab, but the sound barrier rather is keeping them relatively safe. Self-destruct from Cyclone God. Doesn't find anything, but neither did Eternal. So Giant still with a numbers advantage. Yang Yang though, Zealy charged up, another self-destruct on his back, gets picked off. Rocket able to close that one out. Now Tinawatt, he's the one with a Earth Shatter available if needs be. But Cyclone coupling are pulling back. Eternal's lost his mech, X69 on his back, gets up the fight. Jackie's already dead and immediately gets closed off. And Giant are going to do it. We're still not going to have a 4-0. Giant just barely pulling one back. At the end of the day, on Dorado, set themselves up for the win, followed through. Beautiful play. And
Giant Esports there, they're saying not today. This is not going to happen. We are not going to be the first team that gets 4-0 in the Pacific region in this season. And while Cyclone coupling, they pick up the win, but they're going to have to just settle for a 3-1 instead. And again, it pains me to say this, but it feels like for CYC, they're just playing with their foot a little bit on their B defense. Yeah. What was likely going to be a hold onto B ends up being a snowball push from Giant onto C, finishing the map, then putting themselves in a very winnable position where they get a decent enough defense across both A and B to really burn the time off, and then CYC don't quite have enough time to get through for the final push. But the part of me that is kind of reluctant to say how CYC kind of play with their food is also the fact that they wanted to prove that they can try and beat GOATs with something that wasn't just GOATs, and it's quite unfortunate that I have to say they would have had a better chance if they just played GOATs.
I mean, their GOATs already beat out Giants' GOATs everywhere they played it. Hanamura, Lijiang Tower, Hollywood. Why not just stick to what's working? I can respect the experimentation, and they had already won the series, but at the same time, look, that 4-0 is just so powerful when you consider that over in Group A, Xavier are only topping the tables because they got a 3-1 instead of a 3-2. This could have been Cyclone really recovering from the loss on day 1, or day 2 rather, by getting a 4-0, pushing them just that bit further up in the standings.
And to be honest, I also would have perhaps liked to have seen the Widowmaker consider the Hanzo even on that B defense.
Yeah.
Just because of the pressure X69 was putting out onto A, and there's still some really nice angles onto B to play with as well. The ability to just pick off a support is likely, you know, that's what's actually going to win. The issue is, you see the Hanzo, the ult charge is good because there's a lot of tanky bodies. You're just firing arrows into this ball of a lot of tanks and supports and all these heals. You're charging up the Dragon Strike, but you're not actually killing anyone with the arrows or the Dragon Strike. You don't do enough burst damage, whereas the Widow, you're not doing the same sort of just you're pelleting them with arrows, but you are going to get a headshot onto a Lucio or something, and that's what's going to probably win you a team fight. So even if they were going to stick to something that plays against GOATs, maybe it should have been that. But bygones will be bygones. That is going to conclude the second match of the evening. Coming up next, so, is going to be Hong Kong Attitude versus New Paradigm.